around the world protecting our great nation.
NFL.com's analysts all voted on who they believed will win the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Now that we are just past halfway in the season, hard to believe, guys. Saints running back Alvin Kamara took 11 of the 28 votes for the top spot ahead of Dalvin Cook and Patrick Mahomes, who rounded out the top three. So, Shannon, do you agree?
Skip, I would put him slightly ahead of Dalvin Cook. But I don't know if you noticed, but Dalvin Cook has picked up some steam, and he's coming fast because this offense, the Minnesota, it doesn't work without him being great. His 3 wins, 208 scrimmage yards, and he's run wild the last 2 weeks. Ask the Packers and ask the Detroit Lions, because we've seen first cousins. When they tried to put the ball in his hands, Skip, about 10 interceptions. So they said, you know what, Gary Kubiak, who was my offensive coordinator, who was my backup quarterback when I first got to Denver, Skip, he's like, you know what? We're going to run this, and we're going to play action pass, and the guys are going to be wide open, and so we're going to minimize your involvement in the offense, Kirk. Hope you can understand that, because guess what, Skip? He was in Washington, right, with Mike Shanahan. You don't think Gary Kubiak called Mike Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan says, okay, guys, what's this guy's strengths and weaknesses? How do I call a game plan for him? They've given him the blueprint. They've seemed to be taken off. Alvin Kamara, Skip, he's been unbelievable, because it seems to me that when he plays well, the offense flourishes. And it's not like, Skip, he's not a guy that's going to average 100 yards rushing. He's not going to be a running back like say like a Dalvin Cook, like a Derrick Henry. That's not what he is. He's an all-purpose back. You throw it to him, you catch, you hand it to him, you pitch it to him. He can do so many different things, and he's slippery, he's slithery. I mean, he gets through. Look, I'm like, man, they got him for 1 yard. Next thing you know, he's 8 yards and on the ground. So for me, I say he has the only thing, if Dalvin Cook had a winning record, I would put him ahead of Alvin Kamara. But because he's 3-5, and he's going to have to probably get this team in the playoffs, Skip, to win this, because he's on pace for 1,800 yards. He's played 1 fewer game, and he has probably like 7, 8 more yards, scrimmage yards. But right now, I would go Kamara. But that guy in Kansas City, he might take sweepstakes. Forget Offensive Player of the Year. He might get MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. And might get Walter Payton Man of the Year after what he did opening up those polling stations. He went half with the Chiefs to open a polling station at Arrowhead. So he might get Walter Payton Man of the Year. Really, really sweepstakes.
Okay, let's go back to the premise of what we're about to debate here. According to my man, Jim Trotter, friend of mine, does an extraordinary job of covering this league and has for years and years. Congratulations to him. But his point here is that someone other than a quarterback deserves an offensive award if the MVP goes always to a quarterback.
Unless you have an Adrian Peterson type season.
Okay, but then we need to differentiate and rename what we're talking about here, the non-quarterback player of the year, okay? But it's not the non-quarterback. It's just called Offensive Player of the Year.
It's kind of like the Heisman, Skip. More times than not, the Heisman's going to a quarterback.
Okay. And then he makes his case for Kamara, saying he's pretty much carried the Saints offense after Michael Thomas went down. And Kamara has a chance to break the league's single-season record for receptions by a running back. Well, obviously he does, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Without Michael Thomas for 6 games and Emmanuel Sanders for 2 games in targets, Saints targets, Kamara has 72 targets. Next on the list is Emmanuel Sanders at 44. He is more of a receiver than a running back.
Yes.
He's averaging 59 rush yards a game. Dalvin's up at 123 a game. So Dalvin's doubled him, okay? He catches. He can really catch. Does that make him a great receiver in and of itself? No, it does not. He ranks 20th in the league in receiving yards, okay? So you can't say, gee, he's a transcendent receiver who happens to be called a running back and carries the ball some. No, that's not what's happening. They were stuck. So without their 2 best pass receivers, they flip it to him a lot.
Yes, they do.
It's why Drew Brees is leading the league at 74% completions, okay? Now, here's my point about this. If Mr. Trotter's going to make the case to me that Kamara should be the Offensive Player of the Year because he has carried the Saints, you know who's not getting near enough MVP love right now? It's that old man quarterback playing for the Saints, 41-year-old Drew Brees. We don't hear his name at all in any MVP talk. What has he done? To me, he's carried the Saints without their two top receivers for a long stretch, all the way to 6-2. Guess what 6-2 right now is?
Best in the NFC.
It's the #1 seed in the NFC. Okay, so help me out. If it's a quarterback's game in the end, and Drew Brees is the quarterback of the #1 seed, and he's been down the offensive player of the year from last year, Michael Thomas, for 6 games out of 8. And he lost Emmanuel Sanders, his new #2 receiver, for 2 games. Why shouldn't he be the MVP? Because look what he did. They've played 2 huge games, opening game and this last Sunday night against the GOAT. And what has Drew Brees done against the GOAT? He's thrown 6 touchdown passes with no interceptions. Does that work?
But Tom Brady rated higher than him, so.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is, was that good? Oh, that was great, right? And Sunday night, he had a QBR of 99 at Tampa, as I call it, Tampa Bay. He shredded them. And the 99 ranks 2nd for the whole year in QBR to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who just had one of those nights at San Francisco, or one of those days, I should say, where he was just like out of his mind. And he had a slightly higher 99-ish QBR.
I think the thing is, Skip, is that Drew hasn't been the Drew that we're used to seeing.
Okay, but I think there's a perception, and you brought it up on the show, he just doesn't have the arm anymore. There's a perception that this is the last hurrah, that he is winding down his career. That's not what people think about Brady. They think he's trying in the next 2 or 3 years to win another Super Bowl in Tampa, So he's still, so to speak, on the rise in his new locale. But Drew Brees is on the way out in New Orleans. Well, I think that's unfair to Drew Brees because he's having a year, man.
We saw Drew at Oakland. In Las Vegas. We've seen him against the Packers. We've seen him play games in which he hasn't played well. And I think that's what's hurt him, is that in some of those games, and because those games were on television, we get an opportunity.
Okay, you just brought up the 2 games they lost. They lost at Las Vegas 34-24, and the Green Bay score was 37-30 at New Orleans. Okay, not like they got Brady on Sunday night. It wasn't 38-3.
That's what I've been trying to tell you about my homeboy. He lost 1 game and he scored, and he had 340 and 2 tubs and with 32 points.
That's what I've been trying to tell you about Aaron Rodgers. He got bum rushed at Tampa Bay 38-3.
Well, guess what? And Drew said, I got you. Drew said, I'll make it up for you, A-Rod.
He did.
Because he tried to come up here and take over the NFC, and we don't have that.
Okay.
So they teamed up on him and got him.
So in the end, to me, if you're going to talk about Offensive Player of the Year, Dalvin's disqualified. Unfortunately, it's not his fault. They're 3-5. I can't do it. Can't make the case.
Skip, he's going to have to. Now, if he gets this team into the playoffs, we're going to have a different argument. Because we saw what Michael Thomas won it last year, but he had over 1,700 yards and 149 catches, which was the most in NFL history. So if you do something like that, I think Todd Gurley won it 1 year, but Todd had like 22, 23 rushing touchdowns, 1,500 yards, got into the play. So if you do something like that, Dalvin Cook is on this pace. He gets 1,800 because he's missed a game. Now, he's only played 7 games, and he's like 850 rush yards. He does that. It finishes with 800, 1,900 yards with 60 catches, and they make the playoffs. Well, I don't know how it's going to be hard to keep that award from him.
Can he keep this pace because he had 163 at Green Bay and 206 against Detroit? Can you keep doing that?
Well, it's going to be tough. You got tough sledding now against Chicago this week, so we'll see. Now, don't think they're not going to run the football. I know Gary Kubiak very well. Skip, known him 30 years. Oh, they're running the football.
Then guess who visits a week from Sunday? My team.
Visit where?
Visits Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, he finna run wild. He finna run wild. He finna run wild on y'all.
He might get 300. I don't know.
Old first cousins? Old first cousin might be dealing against y'all.
He dealt against us last year.
Should we do like a viewing party, hang out together, watch the game? Maybe, you know.
Thank you.
So,
the Cowboys play Minnesota?
I think that would be great.
The Cowboys play Minnesota? Oh,
yes.
He about to break the record. He about to break Adrian Peterson's record.
Just said.
I'm going to make sure you know it and you hear about it from me if that is the case.
Can I get 2 cases right now?
No.
Come on, Skip.
I need 2 cases of something else to get through the game.
We still got some time. All right, guys. Are the Clippers already laying out their plans to dethrone LeBron